You know, what's interesting about Ibrahim Traoré is that people talk about him like he's just appeared out of nowhere, like when the Africa woke up and suddenly there was a young soldier speaking broadly, wearing military fatigue, telling the world that Burkina Faso will no longer kneel. Leaders like Traoré don't come from nowhere, they come from silence, from exhaustion, from that long period where people feel like they've been patient for too long and nothing changed. If you really want to understand why so many people are emotionally invested in him, you can't start with his speeches or his policies. You have to start with how people are feeling. Because right now, across Africa and even in the diaspora, there's this quite anger, mixed disappointment. People tried voting, they tried believing in reforms, they tried trusting institutions that promised development for everyday life stayed the same. Over time, hope disappears, it hardens, and when hope hardens, people don't look for perfect leaders anymore. They look for decisive ones. That's why Abraham Traore resonates, not because he has all the answers, but because he sounds like someone who's tired of pretending. When he speaks, it doesn't feel like rehearsed, it feels blunt. And in a world where African leaders often speaks in careful diplomatic language, bluntness feels revolutionary. People mix that feeling for proof. They hear confidence and assume competence. Sometimes they are right, sometimes they are not. But emotionally, it works. What's fascinating is that many of his loudest supporters were never politically active before. They weren't following parliamentary debates or party manifestos. They were disengaged online, watching, waiting. Traore pulled them back into the conversation, not with long explanations, but with symbolism, the uniform, the posture, the refusal to bow. These things matters more than people admit, especially to a generation that consumes politics visually in clips and moments rather than in full documents. That's also why the comparison to Thomas Sankara comes so quickly. Sankara represents something unfinished in African imagination. He didn't live long enough to compromise or disappoint or become distant. He exists frozen in time as potential. So whenever a young leader appears and speaks about sovereignty and dignity, people don't just see that leader, they see Sankara's ghost. But here's where it gets tricky. Sankara wasn't just anti-imperial in words. He was obsessed about systems, education, women's rights, agriculture, institutions. His revolutions was uncomfortable because it demanded discipline, not just pride. Traore, at least for now, operates more in the realm of narrative than structure. That doesn't make him fake, it makes him incomplete. And honestly, Sankara isn't even the best comparison. A closer one is someone like Jerry Rawlings in his early years, a military figure who spoke directly to the people, attacked corruption, and felt emotionally present. The difference is that Rawlings eventually had to decide whether he would remain the center of the power or help build a system that would survive without him. That's the crossroads every charismatic leader reaches. Some choose institutions, others choose control. History treats them very differently. There's also a resemblance to early Gaddafi before ideology hardened into ego. Young, confident, and Western influence, widely popular among people who felt ignored. The lessons from that story isn't that resistance is wrong. It's that symbolism without restraint slowly turns into personal rule. And this is where uncomfortable conversations start. Conversation many Traore supporters don't like because when people feel presented by a leader, criticism feels personal. Questioning becomes betrayal, and that's always the moment movements lose their balance. The most interesting thing about Ibrahim Traore, though, is even what he's doing inside Burkina Faso is what he never catch up. It exists as an idea across borders. Once a leader becomes an idea, reality becomes dangerous because reality is slow, complicated. compromising ideas are clean. That's why expectations around Traore are unrealistically high. People don't just want improvements, they want the vessel of history. They want centuries of exploitation collected in a few years. No human being survives that level of projection. Not Sankara, not Mandela, not anyone. The tragedy of African leaders isn't just bad leaders, it's the weight we place on individuals instead of systems. So when people ask whether Ibrahim Traoré is Africa's future, I think they are asking the wrong question. He isn't the future, he is the symptoms. A mirror held up to decades of frustration, broken promises, and delayed justices. His rise tells us something powerful, that the old language of leadership no longer works. People want presence, clarity, courage, but courage without structure is just performance. The real story of Ibrahim Traoré hasn't been written yet, and that's what makes him dangerous to some, inspiring to others, and fascinating to watch. Not because he is perfect, but because he stands at exact point where hope and history collide. And whether he succeeds or fails, one thing is already clear: Africa is done waiting quietly. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe.